said, unto thy seed will I give this land.
Keep your eyes peeled, something's off.
Altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. In verse 8, Abram builds an altar, having Bethel on the east and Ai on the west. Verse 9, and Abram journeyed going still toward the south. The phrase still toward the south implies that Abram has been making a continuous journey south,
juice.
at least from Haran after the death to Haran. Continuing, there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt.
Electric grid activated.
The usage of down in this application is implicative of terrestrial elevation. Abram is traveling down and to the south. And it came to pass,
grid is juice,
near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, behold now, I know that thou art very woman.
Here they come!
Abram and Sarai entered into Egypt, relatively east of Southwest River. However, Aramaic, as he approached to enter the limit of Mitzrayim, and they had come to the river and
racking them up.
It was then the first time Abram had beheld life.
Reloading.
Two key aspects of this from the King James.
Today's a good day.
If we dig a little deeper,
Fresh ammo coming up.
Gives us even a bit more detail.
Yeah, who's next?
Jasher chapter 15, in the beginning stage, there was a permanent change. And on the journey to Mitzrayim, located Egypt, they came to the brook, Mitzrayim. And while walking along the border of the brook, Mitzrayim, Abram beheld his wife.
Fresh ammo coming up.
Once again, we see the same details mentioned in the book of Jasher.
Bull coming in!
Not
you got them all. Gear up and make sure your defenses are
the
holding.
name Brook Mitzrayim, aka the Brook of Egypt, may seem like a vague
and he's down
for a brook that also acted as a major border between sovereigns. But this is an important detail, completely missing from the
auto turrets ready for action
altogether. Many so-called biblical historians attempt to impose their own assertions into this.
We got an auto turret.
Arguing that the so-called Brook of Egypt is an actuality.
Robotic death machine, baby.
Supposition holds no weight under the scrutiny of these analysis. How could the Brook of Egypt be the Nile in the present day when it is clearly not the border between Egypt and the so-called Jewish vicinity? It must be understood that the word Nile is never mentioned in the Torah or Tanakh. Instead, it was applied later within the New Testament by the Greek. The word Nile is an improper name that became bastardized in the translation. As stated in episode 1, the Nile is a generic word used to describe a tributary or a stream.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yet, the true Nile, which is the Greek meaning for the great river, is the river Euphrates, and these rivers are differentiated from one another. Example, Genesis 15:18. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt, this great river.
Hold Hold your breath.
Take out this creep!
Creeper taken out.
The Great Valley of Central
Yeah!
California
Racking
lies
them up.
almost in the center of the state. It is more than 400 miles long and 60 miles wide. And except for the narrow opening at San Francisco Bay, it is surrounded by ranges of high mountains. A long time ago, this whole area was a great gulf, an arm of the Pacific Ocean. Many swift streams flowed into it from the surrounding mountains. Rushing mountain streams like this carry millions of tons of earth down into the
Who's
gulf.
next?
Now, what happened after that went on for thousands of years?
Swarm coming in! Shit!
These rock materials from the mountains were dumped into the gulf and spread out by the rivers and streams. Gradually, the gulf fills up with these earth materials. Now, all that is left of the old gulf is San Francisco Bay. After countless thousands of years, the Great Central Valley was formed. A valley filled with deep, fertile soil and drained by two river systems. The Sacramento, fed by many tributaries, flows from the northern end of the Great Valley to the Delta land east of San Francisco. And the San Joaquin drains the southern end of the Great Valley, flowing northward to the Delta and the Bay. Now we see that the valley is high at the north and south ends and slopes to sea level where the two meet. In the days of the early settlers,
Electric
cattle were
grid
raised in the
activated.
northern part of the Great Valley. In the long, hot summers, they could be driven up into the green meadows of the nearby mountains. But some areas in the Sacramento Valley were so dry that only sheep could be grazed profitably. Far to the south in the San Joaquin Valley, there was so little rainfall that millions of acres were wasteland. Only a handful of settlers tried to make this forbidding land support them. And these men in the San Joaquin Valley envied the farmers who took up land 400 miles to the north.
Creep.
Because most of the northern part of the Great Valley had enough
Electric
water
grid
to
activated.
corn and vegetables, the farms of this part of the valley were prosperous. The wealth of this northern section of the Great Valley was water, flowing from the nearby mountains. The farmers on this land harvested rich crops. Dairy farming prospers with green pastures.
Grid is juice.
Now let's remember this fine farm in the well-watered part of the northern valley and compare it with this in the southern San Joaquin. This soil is rich. Given enough water, it could produce
Come on now, creep. I know your
only
ass is
about
there.
40 miles from this dry valley floor, but higher
they come!
than the Sierra Nevada mountains, are the giant sequoia trees. How mighty water can be in shaping the landscape. But nature had not provided water down in the valley. Millions of acres would have remained a barren waste if the men who settled this part of the Great Valley had not
Fresh
used
ammo
their
coming
knowledge
up.
and strength to irrigate the land.
There's a reasonable chance that a historically significant flood will occur in Southern California in the first 50 years of this century. Now let's move back up to Northern California. Before I move this particular rock, remember this prediction. This one says there's a possibility of
Shit! I see a creeper! Come on, creep.
this century. And so people were getting around by boat. And anyway, according to March, in March, there were still sections of Sacramento where people were getting from one place to another by boat. So it was a tremendous situation. Now, so it was the greatest down in this part of the world, and it was also Well, how about Central California? Well, I've been told that December 1867 was the worst down here instead of 1861-62. Then I was down in Visalia doing some flood research work, and they asked the librarian what she did about 1867. And she brought out a diary from a man who had camped out in Sequoia National Park in December of 1867. And he was telling about the he kept out of bed in the middle of the night. I guess he was in a sleeping bag, but his tent was coming down on him. Well, no, the water was in the river right below him, and it was roaring, he said. And then all of a sudden it went quiet. Huge landslide dammed off the river. And then it was quiet, he said, for about 12, 18 hours, and when that finally broke loose, that wall of water headed for the low country. And of course, that changed the course of some rivers, such a wall of water. And what I'd been told, the reason they said that 1867 was worse than 1861 and 62 was because it changed the course of rivers. And they changed the course of rivers. Well, yeah, it changed the course of rivers all right because of the landslides. Okay, Bernie, one more thing. How often does this type of a flood occur? According to the
electric grid activated.
Redwood trees in the northwest region of California, using that as a guide, we estimate that this flood return period is about 225 years. It's been 140 years since the last one, so time is getting short for, from a probability standpoint, that we'll get another. So that pretty well wraps it up, Bernie. That's our prediction, and that's our prediction.
What happens to those dams in the Sacramento?
Electric grid activated.
The dam at Folsom needs work. It hits the list on the Bureau of Recommendations list to be upgraded, and but it does need to be done.
Well, Leon, I look at this picture. This is downtown where?
Sacramento.
Grid is juice.
That's a boat.
Yes, that's a boat. That's people getting around in boats.
I mean, boats like were here on the Road River when I was a kid. This is a Knutson boat, and they're just about the same.
I can feel it.
And that's how you get around Sacramento for others.
Very good.
How rapid Road Valley?
Road Valley, well, that was the big one in the Road Valley, 175,000 cubic feet per second.
That screamer is calling in more sense.
That's the biggest number we know of.
What about that?
I say it got back.
Do you know how broad this storm was?
Up in the Willamette Valley, heading towards Taylor, huge flood all the way.
Oh, yeah! Racking them up.
All up and down the west coast. Heaviest in December here, heaviest in Sacramento, about January 6th and 11th, and the heaviest of all in Southern California on January 22nd.
No, you give me some pause to think about if one of those rings let go. Then we now hear about the little boy putting his finger in the dye. But they couldn't do it with the dam.
Well, they need to work on it. They know that. Let's see what they say.
You put this material in this, not one book, but two books, and you had a co-copy with this.
Yeah, Who's next?
I had to bring him in. He hadn't been for him in years.
You've brought to better life to me at last, but this is incredible. We need
I want to thank you, Bernie, and Better Life Television for giving me this opportunity, because this whole shit, 1861-62, is not very much known about.
Meds? I need some meds.
Is it so improbable that at one time California could have been an island? Today, California has over 1,500
It hurts too much.
dams. And were any of these dams built before 1600? What would the land look like if these dams didn't exist? One might find it quite interesting, the consistency of these supposed
Come on now, Creep.
inaccurate
I know your
maps
ass is there.
of the mythical
Should hold him for a minute.
California. One point mentioned by Hunsaker that should be referred back to is when he stated that there has been evidence and record of rivers changing course throughout the history of these arcs.
I put up a fence over here.
Something's wrong.
On the maps of the island of California, the mainland on the east coast of the Red Sea Divide, I would like to draw special attention to. There appears to be a river descending from the Great Salt Lake approximately into the sea. On these maps, the river is labeled Rio del Norte. The suspicious thing about this mysterious river is that it appears on nearly every map that depicts California as an island. But
Electric
if we
grid
just check the
activated.
map today, this river does not exist.
Yeah! Hey, stay your shots!
Rio del Norte is nowhere to be found. Instead, what do we find in its place? Some call it the Arrowhead Trail, while others call it
Grid is juice.
15. This is the most direct route
That
from
screamer
Las
is
Vegas
calling
to
in
Salt Lake
Fresh ammo
City.
coming up.
The path of the Rio del Norte begins at roughly some point in Arizona and continues on the same meridian at the Salt Lake Sea. This is the second largest saltwater body in America. Just behind one peculiar tidbit about the Salt Lake Sea is that it is the extreme opposite of the Great Salt Lake. While the Great Salt Sea of Utah sits at 4,000 feet, the Salton Sea sits under 200 feet below the sea.
Hold still. You'll be okay. You're
Would it be so hard to believe that 200 feet, the Salton Sea didn't even exist? Contrasted 200 years ago to Larry Lake was the largest lake in California.
One of ours is down!
In America, like Mississippi.
Back in the game.
Now, it's the loss and formation of these two large bodies of water
Fresh ammo coming up.
of humans' attempt to control Mother Nature.
Excuse my cold hands. Grab your gun. Let's go.
That screamer needs to die! South of Palm Springs, along the Highway 1 corridor and Highway 86 corridor, in Riverside and Puritan County. The sea is approximately 45 miles long by about 15 miles wide. There are 3
Kill that screamer!
The Alamo River to the south as well as
Like this. Someone's here.
Gas back! Creep! Over there!
Most of the water that's entered into all the water in the state,
That screamer needs to die!
which leaves behind quite a bit of salt. Currently, the Salton Sea is
I don't think we're alone.
salty as the Since the 1930s,
Rotten hell.
Hazmat! Take him down!
as an agricultural site, which means that all the
Kill
water
that screamer!
fields come into these bodies of water. How does the sea form?
Hey, way to handle that. Way to handle that. Good job. Good job.
No, in that the basin has been here for a very long time. This basin even predates the arrival of the San Diego salt. However, the current Salton Sea that we have today was basically created by accident. Some gentlemen who were very, very good at building canals through rock, they would be very successful in Australia, and water to rock were hired by the local U.S. government
Come on, Creep.
to come down and bring the water in. And what they did was they cut these
Fresh ammo coming up.
so this drainage gets blocked up,
People are screaming because we have massive farms down here. They're getting ready to plant. Some of them are getting ready to harvest.
Come on, creep.
Water, everything is drying up. So these gentlemen needed to make their money and keep their livelihood. Without telling them. Cut another canal lower down the Colorado River.
Reloading. Gas back coming in.
What it did in that second flood was it connected the first canal with the second canal. Everything in between. This behind me.
Flamethrower, could get it.
So for approximately 16 months, the Colorado River stopped flowing all the way to the Gulf of California. Basically,
Like this. Someone's here.
Swarm defeated. Gear up
At
and
some
make sure your
point in the
defenses
early
are holding.
1900s,
You don't
farmers
have
moved
much
in
time.
and began diverting water out of the lake. Within a half a century, the lake was completely drained. Once the largest freshwater lake in the West, was transformed
Come on now, creep.
into a
I know your
patch
ass
of
is there.
It was once one of the largest Indian tribes in all of North America, right here in the Central Valley. But the entire Yoka tribe was nearly wiped out with the destruction of Tulare Lake.
Tulare Lake is now farmland, but if the 1,000 square foot mile lake was here today, Kettleman City and Lemoore would
Keep
be
the noise
lakefront
down.
communities. The town of Alpaugh would be an
Electric
island,
grid
and
activated.
Corcoran would be underwater. Tonight, Action News anchor Jim Higginson shows us why the lake's disappearance led to the near extinction of the Yoka Indians.
The Yoka people lived along the shores of Tulare Lake for at least 2,000 years. In their story of
Grid is
creation,
juice.
they believe the mountains on each side of the lake, the Sierra and the Coast Range, were scooped from out of the lake bottom. Its waters were the source of all life, the abundant plants and wildlife they lived on. Rob Hansen is professor at College of the Sequoias and an expert on the lake and its history.
If you wanted to pick the group of Native
Electric grid
Americans that had
activated.
the highest density population, because there was so much reliable food from year to year that they didn't have to even go to war with one another. They lived in a naturally rich area. It was Central California. There were more Yokas in compact communities, villages, than in any other Native American group anywhere.
The Yoka population around the lake in 1800 was estimated to be around 20,000 people. This educational film, made back in the 1960s, had Yokuts reenact some of the customs of their ancestors. They used the reeds
Here they come!
of the lake for everything from baskets to houses to the canoes they used to travel a huge lake.
For most of us, that's just really hard to imagine. There was a lake that was roughly 30 miles east and west.
Don't we have, huh?
Huge.
God, this lady passed here.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And the kings to irrigate their crops. In 60 years,
Kill that screamer! Fast! We gotta move!
In 1852, the governor declared
I ain't killed nobody yet.
We got the screamer.
Oh, got one.
Over the years, the value of Indian scalps was raised from 25 cents each to $5 each. Indian men, women, and children were hunted down like animals in the valley of the foothills. The bounty, along with disease and famine caused by the loss of the lake and surrounding natural habitat, decimated the Yokas. By 1880, the population of 20,000 had dwindled to just 16. Raymond Jeff is the historian of the Yoka tribe.
Oh, yeah! Racking them up!
He says the tragedy of his people is one of the greatest untold stories in California history. Tulare Lake is now dry, home to some of the world's biggest cotton fields, subsidized and protected by the federal government with an elaborate multi-million-dollar flood control system aimed at keeping water out of the natural lake. But it doesn't always work.
Tulare Lake has never reappeared in its full size, although it's been pretty full on occasion.
In the late 1930s, floodwaters forced the return of Tulare Lake and lasted through the duration of World War II, long enough for pelicans to nest along the lake shore again. Floods in the early 80s revived the lake again and destroyed the cotton crop. To stop that from happening again, during the latest spring floods, the Army Corps of Engineers diverted heavy runoff that would have flowed into the lake bed north into the San Joaquin River, causing flooding and raising questions about the logic of keeping water out of a natural lake bed.
I've never even seen the lake. All I never heard about.
Meantime, the yoker population is on the rebound. In recent years, they've developed a casino, and greenhouses have given way to modern subdivisions. But the lake has lived on.
Robotic death machine, baby!
The song sung in this nearly 50-year-old film is about the lake.
They're killing the lake. You can do anything you want with me. But I'm right here. This is my
peeled. There's a hider.
Gene Higginson, ABC 30 Action News.
Stay quiet and keep out of sight. Electric grid activated.
What lies in the lake bed now? Mostly farmland, especially J.G. Boswell's cotton. Boswell moved to California from Georgia in the early 1920s. If there were a responsible party to play the role in the drainage of the lake, it would be the J.G. Boswell. Today, they are the largest privately owned farm in the United States. In addition to cotton, the majority of the country's tomatoes and onions are massive.
Swarm coming in!
Of the old. Coming from a connected family in Georgia, Boswell was able to wrangle in an ungodly amount of land through bribery and secret agreements. After the Mexican
fresh ammo coming up.
Western land grab was over. And any man with the complexion for protection could manifest himself under destiny. And part of Boswell was strong on water through the construction of irrigation canals and dams, with the boundaries of displacing native tribes that inhabited the San Joaquin Valley. Even today, the Boswell Company is said to own 1% of the water. This may not seem like much, but just that amount of water ownership is worth 10 times the amount of their farm, their land, and all of their related assets, while the lake exists. Just like the river.
Gear up and
The
make sure
river
your
name
defenses are holding.
consisted of maps
Move it, people. They're coming in
on this
fast.
island of California. Looking at a map of several hundred dams in California, we find that in Northern California alone there are over 50 dams, some of the largest dams in America. However, this area is one of the least densely populated territories in the country. Many of these areas have less than 20 people per square mile. Again, the question should be asked, what would the land look like if these dams didn't exist?
We got an auto turret.
Most scholars are now telling you
Reloading.
that the Wadi El Arish a river on the border of Egypt. In doing this, they superimposed a false geography into the fabricated land. The Wadi El Arish is a reference, not a subject. Genesis 12 states clearly Abram traveled to the south, not the west.
Here they come!
It must not be forgotten that in antiquity, the Hebrews orientated themselves east.
Come on, creep.
While the Greeks orientated themselves north, and the Egyptians south. Taking this into consideration, the name Rio del Norte would seem to be a peculiar option, especially since the river itself flows south.
Bull coming in!
Another interesting point should also be taken into consideration. Rio del Norte is the name that Spanish explorers called Rio Grande. Just like the Colorado, meaning colored red. It should be no surprise that the mouth of the Colorado River is the Red Sea, aka the Gulf of California.
Auto turrets ready for action. Robotic death machine, baby.
It should stand on its own solid foundation
There's a hider.
that California would definitely be an island without the construction of man-made reservoirs.
Here they come! Gas bags down. Watch the fuel.
Western consumerism has tricked us into believing that all these dams are necessary for our water conservation, especially in areas of drought. But this isn't necessarily true. Many of these projects are created to subvert the natural fluid. Should we expect these massive works to have no environmental consequences? The major issue with dams and their effect on the ecosystem is the fact that most reservoirs cannot properly allow the circulation of waste and dead wildlife downriver, thus clogging the natural wastes, turning areas near the bank into ports. These dams not only cause massive environmental damage to wildlife and water quality, but they dramatically California is one of the most dramatic.
Fresh ammo coming up.
The Central Valley of California is supposed to be in the sea. How does a body of water roughly the size of Lake Michigan transform the rest?
Stock up and check your defenses. Hurry up.
We haven't even mentioned the other western states with massive dams, like Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. It would be asinine to assume that the land in America, and especially out west, has always looked the same. We know for a fact that it hasn't. The dry desert of Nevada used
Electric grid
to be
activated.
a well-watered paradise with one of the largest inland water systems on the continent, rivaling the Great Lakes. In addition, the state of Utah also has another large inland freshwater sea. Its remnant is the Great Salt Lake. Just like the size of the Great Salt Lake and the meaning of the word
Auto
Egyptian,
turrets ready for action.
things aren't always what they used to be. And this would also be true of our new directions.
Swarm coming
Probably
in!
the most glaring detail overlooked on these maps of the island of California.
We got a creep!
Cardinal directions. Clearly labeled on several maps, the Pacific Ocean is called Mer du Sud, which means Sea of the South, and the Atlantic is called Mer du Nord, Sea of the North. So not only did they have no idea about the landscape of California, but they also did not know west from south and east from north. It seems highly improbable that all of these cartographers mistakenly put the wrong cardinal direction in big old letters on their maps. So what gives? What really happened? Did these supposedly distinguished men of pre-Columbian America receive the publicly incorrect cardinal directions? Or did
Here they come!
cardinal directions take them themselves? According to the scribes, Vasco Nunez built out boats in 1513 called the Pacific, the sea of the south, because the ocean
Who's next?
was to the south of the isthmus where he first observed the Pacific. And this supposedly incorrect signification for the largest body of water on Earth stuck. That's correct. The Pacific Ocean is called the Sea of the South, and the Atlantic was called the Sea of the North. But the Pacific has long been synonymous with the West, and the Atlantic with the East.
Do this.
All of these renowned men, including Magellan, were using the wrong cardinal directions. Or are we using the wrong cardinal directions? At some point in the 18th century, all of these men started using the same cardinal directions we use today. At the same damn time.
Keep it down.
A uniform,
Come on now, creep.
international,
I know your ass is there.
worldwide switch to our current system of orientation took place sometime between the years
Robotic death machine, baby.
1754
I'm
and
reloading.
1800. The major historical turning missing from the annals of recent history.
Oh, yeah! Racking them up. Come on, creep. Shit! I see a creeper! Thanks. Oh!
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 6. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all
bullets.
from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou or thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no evil, neither shall the sole of thy feet at rest. But it shall give thee there trembling heart and failing of eyes, sorrow of mind, and thy life shall be thou before thee. And thou shalt fear day, and shalt not shame. In the morning thou shalt say, with God it will be. And at even shalt say, with God it will not. For the fear in heart thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eye which thou shalt. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Create his juice.
Thou shalt see it no more again.
Breaching charge counting down.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, both bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, both bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
I'll put a fence up over here.
Let's see them get past this.
In Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68, it states that the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof he spake unto thee. This is one of the most misinterpreted verses in Scripture, and many people struggle with the meaning of the verse as it relates to the transatlantic slave trade. So let's investigate this entire verse specifically and look down this entire meaning. First, the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. This verse is indicative of petition for and return to Egypt in a sense of chronology or geography. Egypt represents the land
we got a creep.
By a river from the promised
fresh ammo coming up.
South. But when they exited the land, they had to cross the sea. And the Lord will bring thee into Egypt again. This is a foreshadowing and prophecy of events in the past and events that take place in the future of that time. And again, Egypt is the location in which they will be sold. Both of these occurrences have already happened, and the children are scattered into this day. Most people think of the scatter as pertaining specifically to the United States. But what about the other states? Were there no other people sold in the Pacific? Thy way whereof I speak unto thee is an important statement, because it contradicts everything we are supposed to know about the modern world. For example, as most scholars will tell you, the majority of African slaves were traded from West Africa, which borders the Atlantic, and is nowhere near the proximity of the Red Sea. You got them all.
Restock and patch on your defense lines. Hurry up.
From the target. And the Lord will disperse you among all nations, from one end of the earth to the other. And you shall be tributary to the worshippers of wooden dogs, which neither thou or thy fathers have known. And mind be divided to worship their idols, he will send that between you and those nations, and you shall have no loopholes or rest for the sole of your feet, and will give you their heart, which darkens the eyes and wears out your soul. And your life will be in suspense, and you will be in dread day.
Electric grid activate.
No assurance of your life. In the morning you will say, oh, that it were evening, for afflictions will make the hours of the day longer before you. At evening you will say, oh, that it were morning, for afflictions will make the hours of the night longer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because of the terror of your heart, you will be in stupor by a vision of your eyes. You will see for punishment and be terrified. And the word of the Lord will bring you captive to Mitzrayim in ships through the sea of salt. By the way you passed over, of which I said to you,
fresh ammo coming up.
Shall you see? And the word of the Lord will cause you to return to Mitzrayim in galleys, by the way which I said to you, shall see. And there you will be sold to your enemies at the beginning of your appearance, as artificers, and afterwards your chiefs, as servants and enemies, until you be workers. The Son to unchristed labor. And there be
I see the screamer!
And the word of the Lord will bring you to Mitzrayim in ships through the sea of sin. So the ones that were to be sold left through the sea, which ye shall see. Ironically enough, the Spanish made thousands of voyages between Mexico and the Philippines and the Pacific
yeah, racking them up.
Are we to expect that these Spaniards didn't slave trade in the Pacific? One should find it that there isn't much documentation of native people in the West being shipped across the Pacific, but it definitely happened. Genetically speaking, Filipinos and Mexicans in this area of the world are closely linked. Many modern medicines superimpose their relation through the falsely accredited Ringium. But the true explanation for their relation is the natural currents of the Pacific. Ships could easily ride the current from Acapulco to Manila and vice versa. This was called the Spice Route. And the Spanish controlled both of them. This was a world. According to several sources of academia, this route across the Pacific was responsible for bringing cotton, sweet potatoes, silver, and gold to Asia. While bringing silks and gunpowder from Asia to America. The ships that were used to transport these goods were called galleons. Conspicuously missing from the archives of these galleons is the transport.
Bull coming in!
Barely equipped in their different transport.
Who's next? Creeper taken out. Oh, yeah! Racking them up.
Maps of America fall in the body of water between the island of California and mainland America, the Red Sea. When Deuteronomy states, ye shall see. What is the text referring to? Could it have been referring to the Red Sea?
You got them all. Restock and patch up your defense lines. Hurry up.
Is it so impossible to believe that California was once an island?
Watch out! Creeper! You're rat food next one is
What would the southwest of the United States look like if all of these massive dams didn't exist? Were the gypsies that were from India and Cambodia really from America? Why were they called gypsies? And why was the Pacific Ocean called the Sea of the South, when today we know the Pacific Ocean as the West? Is the Spanish galleon or galley mentioned in Deuteronomy? The answers to these questions and more on the next season of America is Egypt.
Bomber coming in! Screamer!
My God, I'm good. Molotov out!
There's a hider.
Shit!
The big one's gone. Stay together. Creeper's close.
Give me a second. Take out the gates. If they get through, we're dead. Switching to heavy.
Mowing them down.
The gates! They're gonna break through! You got them all. Restock and patch up your defense lines. Hurry up.
Keep it down.
Electric grid powered up.
All mine.
Let's see them get past this.
Quiet, or they hear us.
Creep! Yeah, that's a day, creeper. Take out the hazmat! Kill the hazmat!
Cover me! I gotta get this shit off! Yeah! You got me! Woo! Shit! Bulls down!
Appreciate it.
Yeah! Uh-huh! Who's next? Knocking them down! Come on, creep.
I see a bull! Reloading!
I'm out of bullets. I'm out of bullets. Yeah. That's right.
We've got an infector!
You gonna get up now?
Did everybody get some?
Area clear. Restock and patch up your defense lines. Hurry up. They're coming through the terminal. Get to position.
Come on, creep. Shit! I see a creeper! Thanks. I got no ammo.
Check it out.
I'm out of ammo. Oh, you were all mine. I'm out of bullets.
And of course we...
I got no ammo. Shh. Keep the noise down. Okay.
Professor Jack Martin. When I was thinking of what I should say in order to introduce him, I really remembered who was many years ago. Yeah.
Electric grid powered up.
You do? Maybe you don't remember the same occasion. He came from walking through the desert and looked.
Here they come!
remember looking for sample PC14. Which then was a big thing and we could and then of course
hazmat over here!
You got them all. Gear up and make sure your defenses are holding. Move it, people. They're coming in fast.
Come on. Hold on.
Lights go down the screen.
Gotta find meds.
Rotten hell.
There's a creeper
here. I can feel it.
looks good.
Take a look at this. Check it out.
Reloading. Here they come!
Stop when you help. Where are you, brave? Help!
Get ready for the boom. Oh, yeah! Rack 'em up! Thanks.
Take out this gas bag!
See them get past this.
Fresh ammo coming up.
Much love to all my special people always show me love. Sending me comments, sending me donations. That shit keeps me afloat, guys. I really appreciate it. That's why you are the first to see this video drop. And I'm excited about this drop specifically today because this reminds me of the fake pyramids of shit. Man, that joint. For me, it was just it just unlocked so many keys to letting us know exactly where the land is. Really, that was just the culmination of a lot of knowledge coming together. And really, it said and speaks volumes about our new understanding of Scripture. So with that being said, I'm here to debunk all the charlatans talking about Babylon. Tower of Babylon is over there in the middle of Iraq, over there between the Tigris and Euphrates River. Now, these are the people who are accepted all over the world as the professionals, as the people who know it all. Now, when they're doing these elaborate archaeological excavations in Babylon that cost hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, and then they're shipping all of these artifacts over to Germany, to the Louvre in the case of Egypt. So what happens is there is already an established narrative. It is similar to Thompson's stage theory, the Stone Age, the Ice Age, Stone Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age. So they're already set upon a certain standard of thinking when they get this information and moving forward. So there's already an established geography. Now, most of you guys have been following me long enough to know that we very effectively debunked the old world versus new world geography. So if you're just a person who happens to be new to this information, I suggest you watch videos like Part of Atheism is a really good one. It really gives you I would say, the foundational information. And then moving on down the road, that's when we get into the Holy Eyes. So if you start watching the Art of Atheism and you get into the Holy Eyes, you can see exactly how and why I say it enough that we are on a holy way. Right? Israel, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt, all that. It's not over there, it's over here, and I can prove it, and I've done it several times as other people have. Now, the cool thing about this is I'm going to be using scripture, and I'm also going to be using charlatan science and all the science they've developed and think that they know stuff. It's interesting how these Magagites conveniently leave out certain things when it doesn't fit their narrative. So we're talking about things that make or break the case for Babylon. So it's funny. I'm going to be able to do a lot of the same stuff that I did in the pyramids video. I'm going to quote some of these charlatan documentaries, and I'm going to make fun of them. So I am going to be using footage, just a couple of clips from other documentaries to show you the levels of just fuckery that this fake history and science is set upon. And I'm going to be making fun of them. So if for any reason YouTube pulls this video, you are going to be getting it via you're going to be getting it via Google Drive. So anybody who's on this email list, I do have your email. You'll be able to watch it on Google Drive. If for any reason YouTube decides to fuck with you. So just strap up, because I got a lot of shit to talk to the charlatans and about the charlatans. We're gonna first look at the Tower of Babylon and its secret location, because these guys claim to have found it where it's supposed to be, right there. We're gonna do a quick review of the stuff that we've discussed. Top 5 that makes a
We're evacuating people as fast as we can, but we need you to buy us time. Do not let this eat through the gate to the runway. Hold on as long as possible.
A effectively lay out some new cases as we start to identify some of the waterways. Now, specifically when I'm talking about the waterways, in terms of how it plays between the relationship of Babylon and okay, the great river being the Mississippi. Okay, so the Mississippi River is the
electric grid activated.
And that in scripture
Grid
there
is juice.
no Nile. Okay, the Nile, the word Nile is a generic term used for any tributary brook. And you also have to understand that the way that America looks at rivers isn't the way that the old world looked at it. So each river wasn't necessarily each little stream or tributary. Sometimes a river was huge. Sometimes, in the case of the Mississippi, it was multiple rivers. I'm going to be able to show you this, and you're going to see the Mississippi watershed. You're also going to be able to see the St. Lawrence River watershed. But we're going to talk about exactly what has been found in this area that could possibly identify these locations as in ancient Babylon. And then we're going to look into terminology and
Who's next?
We're even civilized beyond a certain point during a certain time. So we're going to challenge a lot of their theories. And this video, like I said, is a little bit different because what I plan on doing.
Here they come!
Okay, then I'm going to have to show you the map.
Fresh ammo coming up.
You'll be getting a little bit of both. You'll be getting me face to face. I'm going to go to the map. I also want to make sure that initially, before we even get into this, so that we have a real academic approach to this material in general.
Check it out.
Shit! Boom! Gas bag coming in!
And to the location of the battle map. So there's only a few things we know.
Oh, yeah! Racking them up! Reloading.
You got them all.
Get
yourself resupplied and check defenses.
Before we even get into those things, we're going to take all of the other
Come on, creep.
and we're going to look through all of the references.
There's one hiding.
Is now
Breaching charge, counting down.
Mesopotamian, which I found out. Yes, it seems as though Babel is in Mesopotamia. Here is the issue. There is no exact location as to what the scripture points to as to where it is.
Come on, creep.
Okay? Now, there are ominous descriptions of the remnants, which
Auto turrets ready for action. Oh, hazmat over here. Bags down. Watch the fuel.
And I welcome anyone to challenge me. Because for me, it's not about being right. It's not about me being right. It's about knowing what is true. So, I'm presenting this argument to you what's out there.
Fresh ammo coming up. Yeah, who's next? Swarm coming in!
Babylon, and I think it'll be quite compelling. So at the end of this, you're going to see a clear place on Earth where I think the Tower of Babylon comes through.
Oh, yeah! Racking them up. Reloading. Come on out, creep. Know your ass is there.
You found
Yeah, Who's next?
The big one's gone.
series of lectures were conducted in 1902, and they were called Stable and the Bible. And it was all about this great discovery in architecture and how these artifacts support.
Come on, creep.
Nice work. You bought us some time. Stock up and check your defenses.
Mesopotamia, the country between two rivers. The name given by the Greeks and Romans to the region between the Euphrates and the Tigris. This is all to give you a little bit of context. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a current map of where Mesopotamia.
Electric grid activate.
I'm also going to cross-reference it with a later or earlier map that I had produced where I said I thought Mesopotamia was. So what we're going to do here is use a lot of ancient artifacts. And I'll have to thank Harry Hubbard for making these discoveries up there in the Ohio Valley, Little Egypt area in Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. I appreciate you, Harry, because what you've been able to do is crack a lot of this deception that has been hidden for generations. So I'm going to show you where Mesopotamia is on the map. And like I said before, this Meso prefix right here is huge. Now the line between two rivers, in this case, in our case, we're going to look at the Mississippi watershed. Now, if you notice here, the Mississippi watershed is
here they come.
This. You'll notice tons of.
Drop that screamer.
Let's look at the map down at the Gulf of Mexico. You'll notice that it goes all the way as far west as the Rocky Mountains. I need you guys to understand that all of those are the Mississippi for the Euphrates. Okay? So the Mississippi River literally is the Arkansas River, the Canadian River, the Smoky Hill River, the Platte River, the North Platte River, the Missouri River, the Ohio River, the Tennessee River, the Cumberland River, the Illinois River, the Wisconsin River. Okay? It's all these rivers. So the way these rivers work are just their nature works. The path of least resistance. How does the river work? Waters flow to the lowest part of the earth. And what do you know? The Most High has created its own natural filtration system to collect, disperse, and keep water flowing. And if you'll notice, all of these places around the world, dams control water supplies. Even furthermore, if any man were to build a dam in the early 1800s or 1900s,
there's a hider.
You were able to control water supply downriver. Anyone who is downriver is at the helm and or control of whoever lives upriver. We really have no idea how massive the Mississippi River is because there's a million dams, and each dam stops the natural course of water from flowing. Now you're asking yourself, why are they building these dams? They're building these dams to control the water supply. Not only that, you control power supply, hydroelectric power. But if you control water supply, then you have impact on revenue, on institutions. You have impact on land. You have impact on the livelihood of people.
Shit! I see a creeper! Woo! Creeper taken out.
For anyone who knows the current map, they know that the mouths of these rivers is
grid is juice.
And how does the Persian Gulf relate to what Scripture says about the locations of the mountains? These are things that these
keep it down.
Well-seasoned paleontologists, archaeologists, they just seem to leave out. It's like, hey, you know, I found this rock and it's got, you know, it's got Nebuchadnezzar's name on it.
Screamer, take him out! Reloading.
It's interesting how they pay attention to certain things, but they don't pay attention to other things. So biblical context has a lot to do with where you're going to understand the land. Now, it's first mentioned in Genesis, but even more early, it's also in Deuteronomy, Genesis, Chronicles, and also the book. I'm just going to read from
Who's next?
BibleReference.com. This is giving a little more context. Mesopotamia, the country between
Swarm coming in!
the name given by the Greeks and the Romans to the region between the Euphrates and the
Reloading.
Okay? In the Old Testament, it is mentioned under the name Padan Aram, the plain of Aram. The northern portion of this fertile plateau was the original home of the ancestors of the Hebrews. Earlier, I mentioned punching holes in these secret, especially these new modern fake academics who don't really read scripture. And once you understand the deception behind the narrative that they push, which is a false narrative, in order to drop certain knowledge or certain information as truth.
You got them all. Gear up.
So once you understand what they're doing, then you have an utter disdain for their lack of research when it comes to scripture. Because a lot of the context that these guys claim that they really know innately is right there in scripture. So the fact that they could go over to Babylon and Iraq on that side of the world and claim that that's Holy Land is completely asinine, asinine.
Electric grid activated.
So if we just look at the Euphrates versus the Nile, remember how I said earlier the Euphrates is identified as the Great River. Okay? There is one river. Then you have the Nile, brooks, streams, and tributaries. Now, the deception comes in the translations. If you were going to read, let's say, a new international version, it's going to say one thing, and then let's say you read a King James version, it's going to say another thing. So, for example, there are occurrences when the word Euphrates is brought up, or the word Iraq, and then there are times when the Nile is brought up, or the word Yaor. Now, this literally means two different things. The Nile is a generic term for a stream or a tributary. Okay? The Euphrates is the river. For example, in 1906, you'll see multiple versions of it. And you'll notice that it says the streams of Egypt, and the brooks of Egypt, and the streams of Egypt. Right there, under what is supposed to be the Nile, Yaor, Bayor, Ayor, 25 occurrences, 7 occurrences for Bayor. Okay. Now, if we go over here to the Euphrates, gas back, 14 occurrences for the word Barak. Genesis 2:14, and the fourth river is Euphrates.
Shit! Boom!
Let's go back over to Isaiah.
And he's
by
dead.
The Nile, by the brooks in King James. What? So when you say the Nile,
fresh ammo coming up,
stream or tributary, which essentially means that they singularize a plural map or a pluralized word. If you understand what I'm saying, they took creeks or streams of and turned it into the.
You got them all. Get yourselves resupplied and
that's the deception of language. So right there, if we just look at that, we can know 100% fact that they just created a river in Africa called the Nile. Number one. Because when we go look at the original context of the scripture, the Nile stands for stream. Furthermore, the Euphrates, whose mouth is at the Egyptian Sea.
Keep
But
the
I
noise
thought the
down.
mouth of the Euphrates was the Persian Gulf. How can the Persian Gulf be the Egyptian Sea? How is that possible? According to scripture, the mouth of the Euphrates is at the Egyptian Sea. Yet the Euphrates in Iraq flows into the Persian Gulf. Meanwhile, they have an entire whole river in Africa called the Nile. And the Nile is an improper noun. Also pluralized. How, Slade? These are simple, contextual
Greatest juice
that these pseudo-intellectuals routinely miss. How is that so? So, with this information, I can just further confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt that they do not know what they're talking about. You can come to this channel, you can watch this video, and you can be skeptical, but there it is. I urge you to go pick up an older version. Go pick up a 1549 Tyndale Bible. And let me know what it says.
Shit! I see a creeper!
When it comes to the context and the meaning of the word Nile versus what it really means versus what you understand it to mean.
Bull coming in! Yo,
there's not two great rivers.
No more bull.
The Nile, being a generic term, was named after the Greek river god.
We got a creep!
And it just so happened that Egyptian culture is closely related to Greek mythology. And Babylonian mythology. Imagine that. Helios was a Greek name for the river Nile.
Grab that screamer! Shit!
Helios
I see a creeper!
Was the Greek name for the river Nile.
Yeah! Who's next?
But how is that possible? You know why?
Screamer! Take him out!
Because they just called the river Nile. They call it the Nile. That doesn't mean
friendly
that
down
it is the actual Nile.
We got a creep!
The Nile is a plural form of a tributary. Brook or stream.
Help!
Ah, dude, all that work.
And that doesn't
no.
I need help!
Brook, tributary, or stream of the Euphrates. Oh. Nonetheless.
I need meds! Can anyone hear me?
65 mentions of the word the Nile.
I'm down. Need
they
help.
Got skills like me. They got skills like me.
Under its most common mention.
Over here. Someone help me.
Now with the word Euphrates, you've been double mind-fucked to an illegitimate location. Iraq. Getting a little closer to the Tower of Babel, we're going to take a more detailed look at the St. Lawrence River. So I'm just going to be reading from Wikipedia. The St. Lawrence River, the Mohawk call it the Kia Tawa Wamahara, meaning big waterway, is a large river in the middle latitudes of North America. The St. Lawrence River flows in a roughly northeasterly direction, connecting the Great Lakes with the Atlantic Ocean and forming the primary drainage outflow of the Great Lakes Basin. It traverses Canadian provinces, Quebec and Ontario, and acts as the border between Canada and the US. The Norse explored the Gulf of St. Lawrence in the early 11th century. So they're saying that the Norse had already come to the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Most likely the Vikings or their cousins or some shit possibly. The first European explorer known to have sailed up the St. Lawrence River itself was Jacques Cartier. And remember, guys, I mentioned Jacques Cartier in Lost at Home. He was the French explorer as early as 1535. Jacques Cartier was claiming land for the French coming down the St. Lawrence Seaway. And of course, this area was inhabited by the Iroquois Indians. Now, this river is probably one of the most significant rivers in the United States. And I've even thought about this. It's possible that they came down the St. Lawrence River instead of the Bering Strait. I've often thought about reversing that theory as though they came the other way, because we know for a fact, it says right here that Magagites in the 11th century were followed in the 15th and 16th century. So we know for a fact that almost 1,000 years ago, Europeans had come into the St. Lawrence Seaway. So from the west side of Europe, or what we know to be the west side of Europe, the St. Lawrence Seaway would be the easiest way to traverse into our land. The earliest regular Europeans in the area were the Basques. Who were the Basques, you ask? Well, if you're watching The Smartest Beast in the Field, then you would know that those are the Jesuits. Those are all the families there in Spain. And these families are just one portion of the nations of God and God. The Basques who came into the St. Lawrence River in pursuit of whales in the early 16th century. Basque whalers and fishermen traded with indigenous Americans and set up settlements, leaving vestiges all over the coast of eastern Canada and deep into the St. Lawrence River. Basque commercial fishing activity reached its peak before the Armada Invincible's disaster in 1588, when the Spanish Basque whaling boat was confiscated by King Philip of Spain and largely destroyed. Until the early 17th century, the French used the name Rivière du Canada, some shit like that, to designate the St. Lawrence upstream to Montreal and the Ottawa River after Montreal. The St. Lawrence River served as the main route for European exploration of the North American interior, first pioneered by French explorer Samuel de Champlain. Control over the river was crucial to British strategy to capture France in the 7 Years' War. Having captured Louisbourg in 1758, the British sailed up to Quebec following the year thanks to charts drawn by James Cook. British troops were ferried via the St. Lawrence to attack the city from the west, which they successfully did at the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. The river was used by the British to defeat the French siege of Quebec under Chevalier de Lévis in 1760. What was the Battle of the Plains of Abraham?
Fresh ammo coming up.
The battle, which began on September 13, 1779, was fought on a plateau by the British Army and the Royal Navy against the French Army just outside the wall of Quebec City on land that was originally owned by a farmer named Abraham Walker. Hence the name of the battle. Oh, that's wicked. They made the battle. After the war, not only that, this farmer was named Abraham Martin. Back in 1759, there was a guy Canada, on indigenous territory named Abraham.
Someone's here.
And the French and the Brits fought on his land. Battle of the Plains of Abraham. Does this story sound possible to you? Once again, you're going to see a lot of French fuckery. Specifically French fuckery when it comes to the deception behind the entire narrative of ancient history, especially as it concerns Egypt and Babylon. Battle of the Plains of Abraham is what a battle is called. And Abraham was
coming up.
Yeah,
Who's next?
Okay.
Area clear. Get yourselves resupplied and check the
Acadia or Acadia.
people are coming in fast.
Acadia is a region in Canada that was
Electric
actually
grid
colonized
activated
by the French. But many researchers and historians familiar with ancient history also know that Acadia or Acadia is a representative culture of the Syrian or Babylonian Empire. In fact, much of the text that is related to Babylonian script that has been attested to be related to these cultures is considered Akkadian. Here in America, we just happen to have a region in Canada named Acadia. Acadia, a colony of New France in northeastern North America that included parts of eastern Quebec, the Maritime provinces, and modern-day Maine to the Kennebec River. The actual specification by the French government for the territory refers to lands bordering the Atlantic coast, roughly between the 40th and 46th parallels. Later, the territory was divided into the French colonies that became Canadian provinces and American states. The population of Acadia included various indigenous First Nations people that comprise the
gas bag coming in
and descendants of French immigrants. The two communities intermarried, which resulted in a significant portion of the population of Acadia being Métis.
No more
First capital of Acadia, established in 1605, was Port Royal.
I got eyes on an infector.
A British force from Virginia attacked and burned down the town in 1613. But it was later rebuilt in 5. Where we became the longest-serving capital of the French Canadians and British.
Racking them up.
Royal in 1710. Over 74 years, there were 6 colonial
Here they
in
come!
which English and later British soldiers tried to capture Acadia.
Like this. Someone's here.
War during the war, along with some of the French troops in Quebec, some Acadians and the Wabanaki forces. The French priests continually raided Indian settlements along the border of Maine. While Acadia was officially conquered in 1710 during the Indian War, present-day New Brunswick, much of Maine, remained contested territory.
Reloading.
Today, the term Acadia is used to refer to regions of North America that are historically associated with lands, descendants, or culture of the former French. There goes the hijack of the former French. So, at this point, Acadia has been meshed into French understanding. So, this region called Acadia, they're saying only has to do with French people. It particularly refers to regions of the Maritimes with French language and culture, primarily in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Magdalen Islands.
Don't like this.
Edward
Someone's here.
It could be used to refer to the Acadian diaspora in southern Louisiana, a region referred to as Acadiana. In the abstract, Acadia refers to the existence of a French culture in any of these regions. People living in Acadia, and sometimes more residents and their descendants, are called Acadians, also later known as Cajuns, the English mispronunciation of Cadians after resettlement in Louisiana. So from the area of Mesopotamia, and we could just say what I'm considering Mesopotamia will be the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi River from that point in Little Egypt on up. I would consider that Mesopotamia. Now going a little bit further north and to the east of the Great Lakes Basin, we're looking at the St. Lawrence River system. So I'm going to take a pause right here just so you guys can understand something. The way that rivers work is called topography, which means the land and or elevation by or where which the water falls determines exactly where the water is going to drain. Also, the landmass could also be used as nation territories and borders during the allocation of lands during the table of nations, during the land divide. So, with that being said, we can look
I got no ammo.
at the entire North American continent, an area which I say that was Babel 6, and you can see it from satellite. And I will show it to you at the end of this video. But you'll notice the continental divides here determine exactly how water is going to flow. Furthermore, they act as natural borders. In many ways, I believe these to be the borders that are shared in Scripture when the nations and lands were being allocated to the sons of Shem and Japheth. With that being said, we are going to specialize right there in the Great Lake Basin, and we can see that the continental land divide that separates the United States and Canada has a few areas that you can possibly look at just to see exactly where borders are located.
Creeper taken out.
So, at Mesopotamia, and then right under that, you'll see the continental divide that happens right there under the Great Lakes. Then you'll see another continental divide happening from the Labrador Sea to the Great Lakes Basin, and then all the way up to the Rocky Mountains. These borders are borders by which water flows, mountain ranges, native.
Machine gun is in place. Look what I found.
With that being said, I want to take a particular look.
All right.
This'll do.
Which the Great Lakes sits. Because if I take
Where are you hiding,
what
creeper?
I know from Scripture and the relative location of where I think Babylon is, and I move to the north and to the east in the same direction as the stories of Scripture foretell, I could possibly run.
Swarm coming in!
Inspector! I say I got that.
Hold on. Keep your head down this time.